It is 7 o'clock. Are we ready to go?
I'm ready.
Yay! Okay. So I see we have other people who signed on. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you being here. I'm Nicky Cameron, and I am a holistic anxiety relief therapist. And I have here with me nurse practitioner Bertha Campbell. I'll allow her to tell you a little bit about herself.
Yes, so I'm Bertha. You guys can call me B. That's what people usually call me. And I am a family nurse practitioner, and I specialize in functional medicine or holistic medicine, which is basically looking at the root cause of the issue of what's going on with the whole person. Instead of treating it symptomatically, I treat it holistically.
Okay. So
hi, Jitterbug.
I see Nicole is here as well. Thank you guys for joining us. So we wanted to just share some information with you to help you cope with the difficulty that's been happening. And I say to people, my family and friends, I went to bed one night and everything was okay. And then I woke up the next morning and things went left. So it's just now getting to a place where we're learning how to manage and help us get through the difficulty of dealing with COVID-19. And I try to avoid saying it because for some people, just hearing the name alone can be very triggering for them. But we want to share with you some tools to help you get through it, some information. Please share with others. Feel free to tell other people. We're going to try to come on at least once a week to share different information you can utilize to help you get through the situation. So with that said, I started out by mentioning to you that I am a holistic therapist. I treat anxiety disorders, depression, PTSD, which is also a form of anxiety disorder. And then this evening, what we will be touching on is speaking in generalized terms, in terms of anxiety. Touching on general anxiety. So you have different types of anxiety. You have OCD, you have PTSD, you have panic disorders, but we're pretty much going to stick to speaking about generalized anxiety disorder. And I think it's so appropriate with what's been going on nowadays. So the first thing I want to share with you guys, hey Deborah, is that I want you to really take this journey with us, and hopefully by the time we're done, you will take on a new perspective of what anxiety is. So when I'm working with clients, or even for myself, when we think of anxiety, because of the way society views it, we think of anxiety as being a bad thing, that is going to kill us. And I like to tell my clients, anxiety is actually there to keep you safe. It is your body's alarm system. It is not trying to kill you. Once you learn that, then it changes your whole perspective, the way you're viewing anxiety, right? So for a lot of us right now, we may be feeling tense in the shoulders. I know my body, I had a lot of tension I had to work on. So a lot of people are feeling tension in the body. You may be having headaches. You may have constant nausea. You may find that you're having sweats more often than not. Some people are complaining that they've lost their libido. They can't even have sex anymore. They've just lost their desire completely to even engage in sex. You may notice that you're having heart palpitations more often than you typically do. Some people may be having chest pains or even dizzy spells. All of those things are typical symptoms that go along with anxiety disorders. So again, for anxiety, it is anything within your environment that your body views to be threatening. And that particular thing or situation typically triggers a physiological response within your body. So for instance, and I don't want you to think that it has to be a person. So being around someone can trigger anxiety. A particular thing or a particular memory can trigger anxiety. And that situation in of itself can cause you maybe to have chest palpitations, where you may feel like you're going to have a heart attack, or you're having cold sweats, or this fear, this intense fear that you're going to die. Our nervous system, and I'm jumping right to the nervous system, Our nervous system knows that we are living in a time of threat. Believe it or not, our bodies are wired to keep us safe. So in our brains, we have this little almond-shaped structure that's called an amygdala. And the amygdala's job is to do just that. Detect anything that is dangerous. And when it detects anything that is dangerous, it sends signals throughout our system or bodies saying, hey, you're in danger, we need to react. So that may be your heart start racing, you're having sweats, you're feeling dizzy. Some people may flight, which is one of our survival responses. We'll take off running. Fights, where we stand up and fight, or some people will lash out. They tend to be very argumentative. We freeze up. Some people will faint. Those are all different ways we respond when we feel threatened. We were not created as human beings to be in a constant state of threat. That is abnormal. Right now, what's going on in our environment, we are in a constant state of threat. And I don't know about you, Bertha, but when I've gone out to the supermarket now, I find myself tense because I'm like, okay, what if this one sneezes? Or maybe this one may have it. Or I'll wake up certain days and I start thinking, my nose is stuffy, I just coughed. Do I have it? Right? And I think at some point, all of us at some point have asked ourselves, do I have it, right?
Correct.
And that alone is causing so much stress, so much anxiety. People are losing their jobs. I have people telling me I want to kill myself because at the end of the day, none of us were wired to cope with this level of stress that COVID is causing right now. And because we were not wired to be able to cope with this level of stress, our body, some of us have gone into shock. And we're now functioning from a place of survival. So within our brains, if we lift up the front part, we have that little almond-shaped thing I spoke about called the amygdala. And I want you guys to think of that thing as your body's alarm system, or even if you need to think of it as being a puppy, think of it being a dog. So when you buy a dog and you bring the dog home for the first time, a puppy, you have to train that puppy, right? Because it gets unruly, it will pee all over your place. Anyone who walks by, it starts barking. Because the thing with this amygdala is it does not necessarily know how to determine what a real threat is, meaning someone chasing me with a gun or a knife trying to kill me, versus someone's arguing with me, and that's a lower level threat. The way your amygdala sees it is a threat is a threat. So if I perceive you as a threat in my environment, my body is going to go into overdrive to protect me. My nervous system is going to get dysregulated to try to keep me safe. And now that's going to cause a host of problems within my body. If you are afraid of anxiety, then what will happen is it will torment you. And I tell people that the more you learn about it, the more you understand it, that it's not trying to kill you, it's trying to keep you safe. Become curious about it, understand it, watch it and how your body's reacting. Develop a relationship with your body. Then your body will start trusting you that you will guide it to a place where it can become more regulated, right? But if you're so afraid of the reactions your body's having you and giving you, and rightfully so, none of us were prepared for what's going to happen. And like I said, we don't walk away being in a crisis like this every day. We are ill-equipped to cope with it. And when trauma happens, it's typically because our bodies are not equipped to cope with the crisis at hand. And because our bodies are ill-equipped to deal with it, our system may go into shock and stay dysregulated for long periods of time. That's when trauma occurs. Trauma is your body's physiological response to a threat. Trauma is not the actual situation, it's how your body responds to it. So if you understand that and start talking to your body, so for me, I always tell people, give that anxiety a name. Give that little guy in your brain a name, your amygdala. If it were your dog, let's say it's a pit bull, what would you call it? For me, my pit bull in my brain, my amygdala, is Lisa. So if I'm in a situation that my amygdala is perceiving to be threatening, I start to talk to it. And it may mean me rubbing my chest in a circular motion. Lisa, we're safe. You're just nervous because you're in Walmart and you think everybody in here is infected with COVID. And yes, you have every right to feel that way, but don't freak out. Don't make me faint in Walmart. And I literally speak to my body that way. So develop a relationship with your body. Do not be afraid of it. Take time to understand, learn more about what it is, and understand that this guy just needs you to react. Whether it's to go take some deep breaths, whether it's to go take a cold shower, whether it's to go suck a lemon. When it acts up, it's just waiting on you to do something to take care of yourself so that your body can feel safe enough to go back to regulating. If it doesn't feel that way because you're terrified of what you're feeling, you're terrified of anxiety itself, then it will continue to torment you. So I don't know, Nurse Bertha, what do you want to add? I mean, in terms of the physical standpoint, what damage can this persistent anxiety do to the body?
Okay, so it's a loaded question. It's a very loaded question. Hi, Fatia. And I do see that you guys are asking questions. We will get to the questions. I know that, Tamila, you asked about how it affects your sleep. We'll get to the questions at the end. But yes, if you find this information useful, please go ahead and press the share button, so that others can get this information. And we can get it out to people right now that are suffering with this. So physiological, right, Nikki? That's what you asked me?
Yes.
Okay, so I like what you said about anxiety. It is your body's normal response to stress. 100%. It's made that way. When we need an increase in cortisol, we need an increase in cortisol. I mean, right now, a saber-toothed tiger is not going to come after me. But if a saber-toothed tiger comes after me, my body is going to be like, oh my goodness, we have to survive. And if we have to survive, then I need to increase the cortisol levels because I need you to get that surge of adrenaline, and I need you to live. I need you to survive. I need you to run for your life. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine.
Could you say what cortisol is for us?
It's our stress hormone.
Okay.
It's our body's natural stress hormone. So when we're dealing with an increase in stress, cortisol comes along and it helps us. It's our buddy. I'm going to help you deal with this situation that's increasing your anxiety, The problem lies in when this becomes chronic. So we're talking about 6 months or more, then you're talking about generalized anxiety disorder, and it can do some major damage to the body. So physiologically speaking, a lot of us right now are walking around, even before COVID happened. We were already walking around with an increase in cortisol levels on a chronic basis. And a lot of people can relate to this. And that happened because you didn't allow your body the opportunity to heal at night when it needed to.
Okay.
This increased cortisol level that you've maintained, you've basically stayed in a sympathetic nervous system. I don't know if you guys have heard of the sympathetic nervous system, but that's just our system in our brains. We have two, sympathetic and parasympathetic. The sympathetic nervous system is the part that is for when you're ready to go. You're late somewhere and you got to get there. You fighting for your life, survival mode, fighting infection, any of these things. This is like, okay, I need my sympathetic nervous system to work. Parasympathetic nervous system is the part of your body that is used to rest and digest. But when we're in this increased cortisol state, it's our sympathetic nervous system that's on overdrive. So that means that your immune system is down because right now it's not worried about fighting infection. Remember that. It's not worried about fighting infection. It's not worried about fighting anything. Right now, it's on survival mode. I need to fight. So immune system is down, digestion is down, your sex drive is down, because you can't do any of these things when you're fighting for your life. Think about running from the saber-toothed tiger. You're running from the saber-toothed tiger. Do I have time to sleep? Do I have time to eat? Do I have time to use the bathroom? Do I have time to have sex? Do I have time to... You don't have time to do any of these things. That's what your body is meant to do. It's meant to just go. So imagine someone being in this state for a chronic period of time. No sleep, no rest, no joy, none of that. Immune system all the way down. They're so susceptible and vulnerable to any little thing that comes their way. Okay. They don't have that capacity, which you love to use that word, that capacity to handle the situation, because their body has basically been run down. So they've taken the body's ability to work with that cortisol level, they've basically taken it and it's gone into overdrive. True. You know, so that's part of the physiological.
So what you're basically saying right now is we are operating from a place of survival. Our body is in ready to flight, ready to freeze. It's in survival mode right now. And because your body's in that state, sleep is not a priority. Nope. So for people who may be experiencing insomnia and wondering, why can't I sleep? Why am I tossing and turning and tossing and turning?
This is why.
It's because that their nervous system is jacked up and is basically waiting to go into defense mode, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So that's great information to provide, and thank you for that. So what I'm also seeing, and another thing I want to point out, growing up, I know a lot of us, our parents didn't necessarily sit with us and say, here is how you deal with stress. So a lot of people didn't have that. So how we deal with stress, a lot of us, is based on what we've observed. So some people may go running, they work out. Unfortunately, there are some unhealthy ways of coping with stress where some people may turn to alcohol. People do different things to cope, right? And this level of stress that we're all dealing with right now is really what's triggering the anxiety. So what would you recommend then that we do to ensure, because if our immune system is dropping, then that makes us even more susceptible to the virus, correct?
Absolutely.
And the other thing I want to point out is every thought we have is triggered by a situation. Every thought we have is associated with an emotion. Every emotion that we have is attached to neurochemicals. So if we're dealing with this situation now with COVID, where we're all afraid and in constant fear and panic, and our emotion is fear, and with that said, it's now causing our neurochemicals to send fear signals throughout our body, and our bodies are not equipped to be in hyper alert 24 hours a day. Imagine what damage that's doing to the nervous system, right? And I guess my question is to you, what does that mean for someone who's trying not to get infected? We want to make sure that we continue to do well. A lot of people have had the flu, or they were tested and it wasn't COVID, but they were having the symptoms because their stress level was through the roofs. So what do you recommend people do then to deal with that situation?
So so one of the things that I guess I want to touch on before I answer that question is when we talk about anxiety, how do they treat anxiety in the conventional world?
Right.
You know, especially now, there's a surge of anti-anxiety medications like Xanax, you know, because they look at this as situational. You know, let's get you through this. You know, you're not sleeping. Maybe some sleeping medications, you know, and let's go ahead and give a pill for the ill, you know. So a lot of times in the conventional world, they want to name it, tame it. It's prescription pad medication medicine. You know, never do they take the opportunity or the time to look at, well, what's the root cause of the issue? What's actually going on with this particular patient? And what can I do for it? A lot of people right now, like you said, are increasing their alcohol intake. They're increased caffeine. They're eating more sweets. All of these things suppress the immune system. All of these things, when they are, they're sympathetic drivers for the body. You know, so they're going to do an increase in the cortisol levels, which it's only going backwards. So when we talk about what can I do, we have to take away the unhealthy coping styles, you know, and one of those things is removing alcohol. You know, if you've gone to alcohol to cope, this is what alcohol is actually doing to your body. It's typically safe. However, when people are drinking it the way that they're drinking, not in moderation, not in temperance, and they're going more than that, then what happens is it actually affects your your serotonin levels and other neurotransmitters that are in the brain. You talked about a jacked up neural system, so that's going to jack it up even more. So your serotonin levels are going to drop.
And say what the serotonin levels do for us, please.
So serotonin levels, 80% of them are produced in your gut. And your serotonin levels are good for your immune system, but they're also your feel-good hormones. So if you have low serotonin levels, you're going to have an increased risk of anxiety. You're going to have an increased risk of depression. You're going to have an increased risk of stress. You're not going to sleep well because good serotonin levels is what convert to melatonin at night.
Okay.
And then your immune system to also fight viruses or anything that come to attack the body. So it makes you feel more. As the alcohol wears off, what happens is your body then begins to feel more anxious. Caffeine, it's a stimulant. When you take caffeine levels, it actually increases your anxiety and your nervousness. And it decreases, once again, the serotonin levels in your body, which causes a depressed mood. Aged, fermented, and cultured foods. So we're talking about like a meat and cheese plate. You may think with a glass of wine, oh, that's doing so much damage to you, So you want to try more whole foods. Anything that's cured or fermented.
So like sauerkraut, for instance. So for some reason, she just got kicked off the session. I apologize, guys. Hopefully Nurse Bertha will. Oh, here she's back. So while she's joining, I just mentioned sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is a good form of fermented foods that we can utilize. Not sure what happened just now when you
I have no idea what happened.
But thank you for coming back.
Yes. So the fermented foods, what happens is when they break down, they release histamine. They break down into histamine, and they and then that histamine causes a surge in your which is it's a type of neurotransmitter, but when it's a surge, it causes your disruption for like digestion and hormones, and that can then trigger insomnia and anxiety in individuals. I'm not sure if I can see you anymore, Nikki. Your screen kind of went blank.
Okay. Let me.
It just went black.
There we go.
I see.
We're
now.
back.
Okay. Added sugar. Guys, sugar is the devil.
It is.
And it's found in everything. So if you're naturally eating it like in a fruit or something and it's naturally occurring, that's fine. What happens when you start to add sugar or you start to eat donuts or anything that is artificial, the surge in sugar, once again, increase those cortisol levels, which is going to increase that surge in anxiety.
What do you suggest they use? So I have things I recommend to my clients, but you as a nurse practitioner, what do you recommend your clients use in place of sugar?
So like stevia.
Okay.
Stevia is good. You can use sometimes a little bit of honey.
What about maple syrup?
Maple syrup.
Okay.
Yacon syrup is another natural form of syrup. But anything like those pink packets, blue packets, those are not good because they contain chemicals inside of them, and a lot of those chemicals are also cancer-causing agents.
Okay.
So you want to stay away from those.
I also wanted to share additional things you can do to take care of yourself, because at the end of the day, guys, and I keep saying it to my family and friends, I refuse to allow COVID to wipe me out. And really, if we're not careful about watching our thoughts and what's flowing across, and it's very normal. So if you're feeling afraid and you're feeling anxious or you're angry, your feelings are completely validated. Please do not beat up on yourself for feeling the way you feel. We are all functioning from a place of survival. It's very distressing. So if that's how you're feeling, honor that. Honor that. Don't try to push it away or suppress it. But once you realize that it's there, then the question is, what are you going to do to take care of yourself so that these thoughts don't cause you to spiral out of control where you're completely dysregulated and find yourself in a constant state of depression and anxiety that's debilitating, so you can't function, right? So when it comes down to the thoughts, if you remember in the beginning, I mentioned that every situation triggers a thought. So if the situation is negative, it's going to trigger a negative thought oftentimes, until you catch it and reframe it in your mind and start looking at the situation differently, right? And if we're not taking care of that, then it also triggers emotions that are attached in neurochemicals. So one thing I recommend, and anything I'm recommending here, and I know, Nurse B, you can tell me too, I use it for myself, and that's what's helping me to stay calm and get through this. Essential oils. I love essential oils. So lavender. I have a diffuser in my house. I keep it in my office. It's always going throughout the day because it calms the brain. Vetiver, Vetiver. It is great for anxiety. It smells like crap, but it is amazing. So if you get vetiver, Whole Foods or Amazon, you put some in your belly button, behind your ears, and you smell it. It calms the system. Rose oil is another thing that you can use to calm your system down. It calms the brain down. Lemongrass is another thing that can be utilized, another resource you can use. And I also recommend to people to utilize ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is a natural supplement. It has research showing its calming effects, how it can help to calm the body. So because we know that we're going to have to learn different resources and different techniques and tips to help us, we just wanted to share that. So if nothing else, get the ashwagandha. And Nurse B, the other thing I typically recommend to my clients is 5-HTP with B6, especially for women. If we're PMSing now, having to deal with this catastrophe, PMS is not a good fun thing to experience right now. So I recommend to people the 5-HTP with B6, that they take that. Also, vitamin D. Oftentimes, a lot of people are deficient in vitamin D. If you know you are someone who struggles with anemia, please, and Nurse B, talk about anemia and vitamin D and what the importance of using those right now to help us get through this. Please.
Well, you triggered me when you spoke about hormones. So I have to go to that first. But what you are basically talking about is what we call estrogen dominance. Mm-hmm. So estrogen dominance is one of the major driving factors when it comes to actually anxiety. And I want to talk about this really important because a lot of women suffer from anxiety, So you mentioned PMS, yes. You mentioned, especially during this time. So one of the things that I teach people in this is we need to learn how to balance our hormones to help us with this anxiety. And how do our hormones stop talking to each other? Mm-hmm. All hormones are communicating messengers. Mm-hmm. They tell the body what to do. So your progesterone, your estrogen, they're going to tell the body what it needs to do. Your thyroid hormone is going to tell the thyroid what it needs to do. They're responsible for is communicating to the body what they need to do. When they stop talking to each other, that's when you begin to have an imbalance of hormones. And one of the things that happens is that your progesterone goes really low, mm-hmm. and your estrogen then goes higher. Mm-hmm. So I want you to think of a pregnant woman. When a pregnant woman is, she has a fetus in her body, it's natural for her to be hypervigilant because she has to protect the fetus. So naturally for her estrogen levels are going to rise, which is what's supposed to happen. Now, in someone who is not pregnant, imagine now being in that hypervigilant state, meaning that you have more estrogen than progesterone. Your body now has become a major driving force for anxiety.
So that means I'm always on the lookout. What's going to happen?
Always on the ball, always on the lookout. Your progesterone is not being produced. Right. Progesterone is what's going to balance estrogen. So your progesterone level right now is not talking. It's like, oh, well, if you want to do what you're doing. And what did you do, or what happened with the body for it to increase in estrogen? So alcohol, sugar, mm-hmm. junk food, mm-hmm. Not sleeping well at night. Mm-hmm. And then things that you're putting on your skin. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say this. A lot of people don't like to hear it, but I'm going to say it. If you're not going to eat it, meaning if you're not going to eat it, it shouldn't go on your skin at all. Treat your skin like a big mouth, like it's a big open mouth. This is the biggest organ in our body, and a lot of people forget it, and so we lather all of these sweet smelling perfumes and lotions, and they're endocrine disruptors. What does that mean? It's going to put your whole entire system out of whack. It's going to think that, oh, this Victoria's Secret lotion or Bath and Body Works thing that I'm putting on my skin, this is awesome. It smells so good. Once it goes into the bloodstream, because that's what happens, you put it on your skin, it goes directly to your bloodstream. Your body's going to recognize that, oh, it's estrogen. Mm-hmm. And that's going to rise. It's going to increase in estrogen, but that's not the good estrogen. And we can talk about this forever, but we're not, Mm-hmm. So just be very mindful of what you're putting on your skin. Okay. You want things that are, if you're not going to eat it, like I said, do not put it on your skin at all. You should be able to read all the ingredients on your beauty products.
Are there additional supplements you have that you can recommend? So I mentioned the ashwagandha and the 5-HTP with B6, and I also spoke about vitamin D. What else would you recommend to help us maintain healthy hormones so that we're feeling good? I mean, we can't necessarily feel normal right now. Nothing is normal. But what can we do to help us in our efforts to ensure that we're not taking a deep dive with depression or anxiety?
Absolutely. And that was the next thing I wanted to talk about, which you mentioned. And I want to talk about choosing supplements. So when you get a car, especially like a BMW or a Mercedes, and it says, hey, listen, you got to put high octane fuel in your car. Mm-hmm. It has to be 93, Everyone's very vigilant about that.
Right.
But when it comes to our bodies, why is it that we put junk in our bodies? Why is it that we choose cheaper stuff? So when we talk about supplements, I'm really big on this because people complain, oh, but that's so expensive. I'm sorry. So this is something that's going inside of your body through your digestive system, and you're going to find the cheapest one, which means cheap means additive fillers, additive preservatives, chemicals, and sometimes whatever it says in it, let's say it's a B12 supplement, the amount of B12 that's in there is so small because of all the other fillers and additives that they put in there. Do not go cheap with your supplement. Do not purchase them from Amazon. Okay. You can, it's not, you don't know how it's stored. You don't know where it's coming from. So do not do that.
Is Whole Foods a safe place to get supplements from, or Trader Joe's?
Those are safe. Just make sure that they are high quality. So when you're reading it, it shouldn't contain any wheat, any soy, any additives, any fillers, any of those things. Okay. Don't go for the cheapest one, Mm-hmm. So GABA, L-taurine, L-theanine, any of these things I like. And this is something that I utilize. It's called Relax Max. It's by Emergent. Mm-hmm. It's only sold to physicians, practitioners, because it's a physician-grade supplement. I prefer using physician-grade supplements because they are tested through third parties. So what I like about supplements for anxiety is because all the stuff in here, and this has magnesium. Magnesium is something that helps with to increase GABA. GABA, if you guys are unaware, is a neurotransmitter in our brain, and that neurotransmitter actually helps to basically bring down, it's a calming effect. So magnesium, this has inositol, taurine, GABA, and L-theanine. So all of these synergistically are working together to actually help you to actually decrease the anxiety. It's in a powder form. You just put it in a glass of water, and drink it twice a day.
What is the name of that again? Could you spell it out first, please? Could you spell it out first, please?
Relax, like the word relax.
Okay.
And then max.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha. Where can we find that?
So this is only through practitioners.
Okay.
So you can get them through me, or you can find someone that.
Do you have a website where people can go, or a number where they can call to get that?
Absolutely. Hi, Dina and Theo. Yes, absolutely. Should I put it on here, or?
Well, for people who are watching on Facebook, I'd like to share the contact information. So where would what's the phone number they can call to order?
So the easiest, I can give a phone number.
Okay.
So 954
Mm-hmm.
802
Mm-hmm.
9835.
Okay. Could you say it again for me, please? One more time.
954
Mm-hmm.
802
Okay.
9835. That's my cell number. You can just text me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so what you mentioned as well, these anything that works synergistically to help to actually relax the body. But the other thing, guys, when you are going to sleep, we have to practice sleep hygiene. Because at night, it's not the time to be watching the news. It's not the time to be doing a to-do list. It's not the time to argue. It's not the time to do, because your body needs to know that I need to sleep and I need to relax.
So we're training the body.
You have to train it. You have to train it. You have to train your pit bull.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you have to train Lisa. That's the name that you gave yours. And I love that idea of give it a name.
Yes.
Make it personal.
Yes.
So train it like, all right, if I know I want my bedtime to be at 10 p.m., by 8 o'clock, 7 p.m., I need to be winding down. Having my electronics around right there, that's secreting all of that frequency, into my brain. And my brain is like, it's not time to sleep. It's time to be up.
Right.
I'm watching television. I'm doing a to-do list. I'm panicking because of what my day looks like tomorrow. My brain is not thinking it's time for bed at all.
Right.
So there goes the surge of cortisol.
Right. And a lot of people don't realize that. So when people come to me with issues because of insomnia, I always say to them, let's talk about what nighttime looks like for you. And I'll say, well, what time do you normally go to bed? Oh, 2 a.m, 3 a.m. Okay. Or 1 a.m. What happens when you go into bed? Well, I normally have my phone. First issue. Your phone should not be in the bed with you. And I know that's hard because you have the blue light that's telling your brain it's daytime, not sleep time. So if your phone's going to bed with you, then people will check Instagram, they're checking Facebook, they're checking emails, they're checking messages. What you're doing and not realizing is that you're telling your brain, it's time to stay awake, it's not time to sleep. So that's the first thing I say. Leave the phone somewhere else, in the kitchen or in your living room, somewhere else away from your bed. Because if your phone's in the bed with you or by the bed with you, then you're training your brain that when you're in bed with the phone, it's not sleep time. A lot of people too, when they wake up to go use the restroom in the middle of the night, they take their phones with them. Another bad idea. Because again, you're telling your brain, if I normally get up to go pee at 2 a.m. and I grab my phone before I go, then I'm basically telling my brain every morning at 2 a.m. it's time to wake up. So do not grab your phone to go pee, go back to bed. The minute you look at your phone, you're now stimulating your brain and you're going to be wide awake. So if you're doing that, then you're telling your brain that you're throwing your entire circadian rhythm, your sleep system out of whack. So that's important to note. Nurse B, anything else you want to add before I share some resources?
I think because we're in these COVIDian times, that we have to turn off the news.
Yes.
We have to take a break from that. Scrolling on Facebook and people are constantly talking about this, or they're doing a lot of fear mongering or any of that thing. Stay away from that. If you know that that's a trigger for you, one of the things that you have to do is avoid triggers. I know what some of my triggers are, so I have to stay away from them.
Right.
Because that's the way that I have to ground myself, so know what your triggers are. Learn your body. Mm-hmm. We are once we become in tune with our body speaks to us very clearly.
It does. It does.
I mean, it does. Our body is perfectly made.
Yes.
Perfectly made. We're the ones that jack it up. True. But even when we jack it up, it still does what it's supposed to do.
Right.
So we have to listen to it, and we don't listen to it. We continually scroll, or we watch the television, or we have arguments, or, things when it's time for us to go to bed, or we're in traffic, or, any of those things. You just learn to listen to your body,
right,
and become in tune with it.
The thing though, for some people, their body's not a safe space for them. So I agree with you. Your body does speak to you. This is true. And as a body-based therapy, that's one thing I teach people to learn how to do to reconnect to their bodies. So when stress happens, most of us, what we do is we spend more time up here where we're thinking and less time understanding what's going on below the neck. So the only time a lot of us realize that something is going on within our bodies that's huge is when we have severe aches, or we're having chest palpitations, or we feel like we want to throw up. Outside of that, there's no connection with the body. And guys, I can't stress how important that is for you to ensure that you are maintaining a relationship with your body. Watch your body. Notice when things are triggering you. Your body will warn you before things blow up, right? So you'll have tingles, you will start to feel maybe a little sweating. The problem is a lot of us ignore it because we're so caught up in trying to avoid those uncomfortable feelings that we get trapped. And by the time we notice what's going on, we start to spiral downward. And in addition to what you were saying with the news, and I totally agree with you, understand that if you are watching the news, if you keep your TV on all day throughout the day and you're watching CNN or one of the other news mediums, right, you're re-traumatizing yourself. So every time they place on there, this person died or this one died, notice what's going on in your chest, notice what you're feeling in your gut. You are being re-traumatized over and over and over again. When people share things on Facebook, oh, this one died or that one died, you're programming all of that information in your brain. That's compacted, compiled stress. Your body is being, again, re-traumatized over and over again. So I have a list of things here that I also wanted to share. The first thing is set boundaries. Tell people, do not send you anything with conspiracy theories. Avoid all of those. Do not send you anything in Messenger about anybody dying or what's going on with the news with COVID. You can set up a block schedule where you'll say, okay, I'm only going to watch the news for 15 minutes per day, once per day, or every other day. Because in all honesty, they repeat the same thing over and over and over again. So you don't necessarily need to be watching the news all day, every day. That's really a setup for yourself, and that's going to be anxiety producing. So set up time frames, set boundaries. I tell people, post on your status on whether it's Instagram or Facebook. Do not send me conspiracy theories. Do not share with me any videos that is showing people jumping off of buildings or people talking about distress. It's good to stay informed. I agree with that. But you must set boundaries to protect your brain. Your brain is very, very vulnerable right now. So if you're not protecting it, then you're leaving it exposed to any and everything. I say to people as well, take time out for yourself, at least 15 minutes throughout the day where you're breathing. You guys can look it up, square breathing. I always go by it. Clients who I treat for anxiety, they all practice the square breathing. It is used by the military, so when soldiers are going into combat, they typically use square breathing to get them through it. If you go to YouTube and you type square breathing, there are free videos on there that will guide you through it and show you how to do it, right? The other thing is yoga. Yoga helps you to reconnect to the body. It also is a good stress reliever. YouTube has tons of free videos. There are a lot of organizations right now that's offering yoga for free. So that's something else that you can do. And have fun. I know this may sound odd, like what the hell are you talking about? What fun? If all we're focusing on is catastrophe, your body is retaining those neurochemicals that are associated with that. Set time, especially for those of us as parents with children. If you're always in a grumpy mood, you're lashing out because you're in survival mode, you don't know how to take care of yourself, and you're not setting time out to have fun, then all that's happening in your house is misery. And sometimes I know that's hard and it can't be avoided. So please understand that I get it. But what I'm saying is, as much as possible, do what you can to take care of yourself. That may be you forming a Zoom group. Zoom has free time on there where you have friends that you are calling each other. Some families, they play games on Zoom. Some people have karaoke night on Zoom. It doesn't stop them from creating some level of normalcy or ease for them. again, my personal thing is I refuse to let COVID wipe me out. And I hope that's your own personal thing. Meaning I refuse to compromise my mental health and spiral downwards. So I'm going to do everything. And as a therapist, I will say this to you. It's affecting therapists everywhere. It is affecting me. Bertha, you're a nurse practitioner. I'm sure you feel the stress as well. This is not discriminating. Everybody is feeling it. I am pulling out every tool I have in my therapist box right now to help me cope and my clients cope. So please do whatever is necessary. The other thing I would suggest too is I tell some people, when you're starting to feel anxious and it is getting out of control, grab a lemon and suck on the lemon. Because that lemon, the taste, the sourness from the lemon actually brings your attention to the taste of the lemon and distracts you from what's going on within your body with that anxiety. At the end of the day, have a gratitude session with your family where you guys sit and talk about one thing you're grateful for despite what's going on with COVID. And I know it's hard to find things to be thankful for right now. For me, it's me making it from 1 hour to the next. So as the hours pass, at the end of the day, I'm thankful about that. And I will say, you know what? I didn't catch COVID today. Amen to that. And that's a big deal. Some of us, we've lost family members, right? And my heart goes out to you. My condolences to you if that is you. They have free resources online for grief support groups. One particular group that I know is available online is called 7 Chairs. If you sign up for 7 Chairs, you get a facilitator there. It's also a form of group support that you can use to help you through it. But again, guys, do whatever is necessary to get you through it. Cope in a healthy way. And we're just sharing. But that gratitude box is the business because it forces you to kind of refocus your energy and your feelings and your thought. Write a letter to COVID. This is another thing I do with my teenage clients. Some of my adult clients, I say to them, especially the ones who were scheduled to graduate and they haven't. And kids have lost so much, right? I say to them, if COVID were a person, would it be a male or a female? Or what would it look like? What would you say to COVID? And sometimes I tell them, write a letter to COVID. Tell COVID how you feel toward it, what you've lost because of it. Let it know how you think. And people are journaling, telling COVID how they feel. And sometimes, because your brain doesn't necessarily know that COVID is not a real person, right? You know that, your rational brain knows that, but your emotional part of your brain doesn't necessarily know that. So you're releasing that anger by journaling it out and writing it out, and you're releasing that stress, that cortisol that's associated with it when you're doing it. So that's another thing that I suggest to you guys. Is there anything else, Nurse B, before I share some apps as well?
So just to kind of, I guess, round up what I was saying, you want to optimize your nutrition. Choose whole foods. You know, stay away from those foods that I said, like the alcohol, the caffeine, the junk food, or the fermented meats. Work on right now with, you know, just balancing your hormones as best as you can, you know, meaning the products that you're putting on your skin, you know, what you're eating, those things, anything that's going to disrupt your endocrine system, you want to stay away from, you know, sleep hygiene, like we spoke about, you know, when you're going to sleep, utilizing that time for sleep. We do it so well with babies, so well. And then I don't know what age we just start to mess up, you know. We give them a nice lavender bath. We rub them down with lavender lotion. You know, we read them a nice bedtime soothing story, you know, and we, you know, we put them to bed. And so their little brains know it's sleep time, you know. So we need to get back to that as well. We need to get back to that point where we're training ourselves and our brains know that it's time for bed. We cannot be in a hyper stimulant vigilant state all the time. Right. You know, our body needs to restore and repair itself. Right. It needs to produce melatonin and serotonin. You know, your digestive system, super duper important. A lot of you guys are not even having bowel movements, you know, so you're not even taking out the trash can from your body, you know, and that's building up in that. So good high quality supplements, you know, during this time, staying away from anything that's going to provoke you, you know, or that's prone to that. Finding joy, watching something that makes you laugh, I don't like the term social distancing. I like physical distancing. So you're physically distancing yourself, but we're not being antisocial. Mm-hmm. We're still going to be social with each other. Mm-hmm. So like you mentioned, the Zoom connections. I've seen so many creative ways. I was just part of cupcakes and cocktail that a friend did, so everyone joined on Zoom. They each had something in their hand. I had my water, and we played a game on Zoom, together. And then after that, we chatted. Another time I met with another group of people, and we did another game through Kahoot. So there's so many different creative ways of still maintaining, being social with your friends and family. So connect, calm your mind, and the biggest thing is the 6 inches between our ears. This is the biggest driver for healing. So if I don't believe that I'm going to get better, if I don't believe that my anxiety is ever going to be managed, that's how it's going to be, because you're telling your brain and you're imprinting in your brain that this is how it is. But if I'm like, I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm going to be just fine. COVID is not going to wipe me out. These are positive affirmations and positive things that you can tell your brain that, hey, listen, we got this, and don't think that you have to start a business or do all of these things that you're seeing on social media. And, if you're being unproductive, then you're just lazy or you're undisciplined. No, your feelings are validated, like Nicky said, so honor where you are, and feed your brain good stuff. And the more you feed your brain the positive good stuff, the more your brain is going to reward you, and feed your stomach, because those are you have more than one brain, right. And so that gut right there, which is beyond important above everything else, is what then sends chemicals and signals to this brain to then do those things. So nutrition is super important, drinking water, all those basic things that we actually know actually helps, and don't be too quick to judge yourself.
I just think it's so much work to take care of ourselves. Like, seriously, it's so much work.
But we do it with our cars,
right?
When someone has a BMW or a Mercedes Benz, they don't play about that.
True,
they really don't. So I just don't understand why we live in a world where we take better care of cars than we do ourselves, and we're so quick to take a medication without really finding out, well, what's really happening.
Right.
Because those medications jack you up.
They do.
And I'm not saying we don't live in a world where medication is not needed. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it shouldn't be the first thing.
Right.
And
even with anxiety, when people come to me for therapy and I explain to them the forms of therapies I do, so I don't do traditional therapy, as you know, right? Everything I do isn't necessarily traditional. They're body-based therapies. And I tell people, if you truly want to take this route, and I basically work with people who don't want to take medications, right? When they have anxiety or depression. And I say to them, if you truly want to heal and you want to see positive results, you must be ready to do the work and bust your behind to get it done. Because the work you do is the medication to heal your body. Your mind is going to heal your body if it's positive. Your body follows what your mind guides it to do. So if you're negative, your mind's going to follow that, which is what you were saying. So for me, I tell people, if you're not taking medications, then understand that you have to supplement it by doing the work. Whether it's yoga, the deep breathing every day, doing the meditation, all of those things, it's your natural form of medication. The other thing, and you said it, when we have babies, we're very good at nurturing the baby. We rub the baby's back so the baby will burp. We massage the baby's feet. We stroke their cheek. But we stop doing that to ourselves. And right now, given the situation we're in, touch is crucial. I can't stress how important it is. Because when we feel touch, that's you calming and regulating your nervous system, reassuring your body that it's okay. So don't be afraid. And this is something I do. I will sit there and I will caress my right arm, then I switch to my left arm, then I rub my chest, then I start massaging the back of my ear or the base of my skull. Take time to love on yourself. Connect with yourself. Treat yourself like a newborn again, because touch is important. So if you're someone that is living by yourself and you unfortunately don't have any support in your home, that's one thing you can do. For those of you who have pets, take your pet, stroke your pet, because your brain likes that. You're stimulating your brain. That furry feeling is very important. You're being more mindful, remaining in the present. Because if I'm there stroking myself and I'm breathing and I'm doing yoga, it's keeping me out of my head, right? But if we're not doing that, then we get caught up in all of this negativity. So guys, please, whatever you do, protect yourself. So really quickly, I want to share some apps with you. On your phone, we have this app called Not Okay, and I share it with people because it's important to know that sometimes, so if you're someone who keeps watching the news and you're not listening to me, or maybe you know a friend who is really struggling and you want to be a support to them, you can tell that friend, get the Not Okay app. And if you get the Not Okay app, it will ask you to register someone else who is your favorite, who can support you. And it sends a text message to them letting them know you're not okay. The other thing you can do is My 3. It's a crisis plan. You can do that as well. Mood Notes. WhatsApp is another app. Marco Polo to communicate. A friend asks. We will send all of this to you. So leave us your emails, your email addresses if you want us to send this to you, or your phone number. We can share it with you. My number to reach me is 954-593-0639. So
593.
So again, my number is 954-593-0693. If you guys want to get in contact or leave your email address and I can share it with you. Like I mentioned, the apps are Not Okay, My 3, that's MY, the number 3, Mood Notes, WhatsApp, Marco Polo to allow you to connect with friends wherever they are, and a friend ask. Also, Ayana Therapy. If you're someone who doesn't have insurance and you're needing therapy, I know Taraji P. Henson has started a fund to help people. That's something you can tap into. If you have insurance, on the back of your insurance card, you can actually call that card and tell them you need therapy, and they can give you teletherapy. Guys, I thank you so much for tuning in with us. Next Tuesday, we will stop by with even more information. Take care of yourselves. Don't let COVID wipe you out. And just be blessed. Take care, guys.